Bonsoir, salut à tous. Aujourd'hui, on s'intéresse à la petite Emily. Donc, je l'ai invoqué niveau 90 et tutti quanti. On a fait des tests sur le petit collègue samouraï là. J'ai réussi à faire du 67 000, on a regardé avec Ikaso. Avec cette team. Mais je sais pas trop comment optimiser le truc. Au début je voulais mettre du Kazuha, mais Kazuha, vu qu'elle se joue Dendro, elle fait des dégâts Dendro, ça sert à rien. Donc je sais pas. Mais en termes de performance, elle a l'air ok, mais comme on maîtrise pas trop la brûlure, elle fait des dégâts Dendro. Ça fait un mix un peu chelou. Et pour l'heure, on va s'intéresser à sa quête. Ah oui, il y a un nouvel event aussi. On se rend ici, what? C'est parti. On va faire la sieste. Après, sa quête va peut-être être intéressante. En tout cas, Juzo a spammé, c'est passé assez vite en vrai. Mais comme il spamme, bon, ça triche. Donc Emily, pour l'instant, ouais, perso, je suis pas trop déçu. Elle fait des dégâts. C'est surtout que j'ai un peu de mal à faire une team, je sais pas. On fera des tests lors des prochaines profondeurs spiralées. Oh, Tinari. Bonsoir. Tinari, le spécialiste du Dendros. Et pas de la brûlure par contre. Ikasu qui a pas sa quête. Comment cela se fait? Normalement, tu peux les débloquer, je crois, les quêtes. J'ai toutes les armes R1, sauf la lance R2. Le catalyseur, je l'ai pas. Le catalyseur 1 ou 2, Zenith? Parce que le catalyseur de fontaine, ouais. Par le Villette pour l'instant. C'est pas trop.
Well, Port Ormos is currently organizing a flower exhibition featuring flowers and plants
Ah, t'as pas atteint, d'accord, oui. Et oui, ça va faire des références, forcément. Les gens n'assumeront donc. Bah, le deuxième catalyseur, Zenith. À part nos Villette pour l'instant. Je sais pas.
An expert is still required to develop tailored transportation and care plans for each type of flower.
Oh, and that expert is you, right?
Not this time, no. I'm just here to help out. The expert in charge is someone else.
Mr. Tainari! Sanjay! He confused the poisonous bulbs with garlic shoots, and he ate them!
Never mind. Forget about what I said about the food expenses. Apologies, Traveler, Paimon. Looks like I've got something to take care of. I'll be back in just a moment.
Tainari's busy no matter where he is, huh? Yeah, seems like it. Hey, don't look at Paimon like that! Paimon is super careful about what she eats. Well, looks like Tainari might be busy for a while. Let's take a look around the port in the meantime.
Dette, florale, rétribution sanglante. Clique. Comment ça clique? Pourquoi il y avait écrit clique là? J'ai pas le temps de voir. What the hell?
Wow, look at these flowers! They smell so...
Huh?
Ah, je me demande qui c'est. Je me demande si c'est pas genre Emily peut-être. Bah d'accord Zénic, hein. a de la chance. Tiens mais Zénic, toi qui regardes tous les youtubeurs de qualité sur Genshin, ils conseillent quoi comme team avec Emily? Parce que pour l'instant je pars sur 2 Dendro, 2 Pyro, mais... En fait je sais pas si c'est intéressant d'avoir un perso en plus. Cryo ou Hydro pour ajouter des réactions. T'as pas regardé. Ouais, d'accord. Click, c'est la meuf de Mondstadt qui veut se prendre en photo. Ah, mais c'était pas genre liquide bleu de mort là? Comment qu'elle rend des fonds.
A moment of your time, you two? If it's not too much trouble, Perhaps you could try this incense.
Mais visuellement, Emily, je sais pas trop quoi en penser. J'aime bien sa tenue. Est-ce que c'est pas les cheveux? Je sais pas.
Oh, the scent is so nice. What? Whoa, that was
Ça
fast.
sert à rien.
Paimon doesn't have to
Think
J'ai
nothing
quand même
of
l'impression
it.
qu'il lui manque
From
un
your
petit truc pour être
attire, I
vraiment
imagine you two
au top
aren't
du
from
top.
Sumeru either.
Je sais pas trop.
Seeing as we're both travelers from abroad, it's only right that we help each other out should the occasion
Ah bah,
arise.
Picasso qui vient de dire moi, c'est sa
Oh,
coupe
so
qui me
you're
bloque.
here for the
Bah,
flower
c'est peut-être ça alors.
exhibition too?
I suppose that's accurate. Oh,
Ouais,
allow
je
me
sais
to
pas.
introduce myself. I'm Emily.
Pourquoi pas une
a
grosse natte sur le
perfumer
côté,
from
là?
Fontaine.
L'autre côté du chapeau, une grosse natte,
Thank
non?
you
J'en
so
sais rien.
much for your help just now. Oh,
Ah non,
and
non,
this
non.
is...
The traveler, right? I've heard a lot about you from the Steambird. It's nice to finally put a face to the name.
What happened back there? Why did Paimon start sneezing all of a sudden?
Have you ever heard of hay fever?
Bah justement, j'en parlais. Rhume
To
de
put
foin.
it simply, when
Attends, ils ont dit rhume de foin?
certain pollens can trigger
Rhume des foins,
abnormal
en fait.
physical reactions.
But Paimon has seen these kinds of flowers before and nothing weird happened then.
Well, we're all different. The factors that can trigger a reaction to certain stimuli vary by person. In isolation, the effects of certain pollens may seem minimal, but inhaling various types at once can trigger a more overt reaction. But there's no need to worry. Pollen allergies can be effectively mitigated with the use of medication.
Oh, well, that's good.
Traveler, Paimon, there you are. Is everything all right? I left in such a hurry, I forgot to warn you about all the pollen in the air. Emily? Ah, what a coincidence. Looks like my worry was misplaced then. The Traveler and Paimon are in good hands.
It was nothing, really. We happened to run into each other shortly after my arrival, and I offered them a bit of help, that's all.
Des claques?
I'm
À
more
qui, Picasso?
curious
Quoi?
as to why you thought the Traveler and Paimon were in
Tu parles
danger.
d'Emily?
Allergies are highly
parles de qui?
unpredictable. If you were
En plus, j'ai coupé
concerned
le
the
son de
pollen
Danville,
might
ok.
trigger a
Bah.
reaction, that must mean something similar has happened in the past.
Remember the first time we met? You fainted after inhaling Spirit Borneal.
The Spirit Borneal didn't affect Paimon at all, and now she's the one suffering. It makes no sense.
It's not really something you can make sense out of, Paimon. There are all kinds of allergies out
Ah
there,
oui, qu'il y avait, oui,
caused
c'est une
by a
grosse merde,
variety
ouais.
of different factors.
J'arrive
Some
pas avec
people
le...
are even allergic to almonds.
Je préfère encore
It's
Céto.
not something you can
C'est dire.
generalize.
Exactly. I even encountered a case in Fontaine where someone had an allergic reaction to soba noodles their family brought back from Inazuma.
Whoa. Good thing Paimon isn't allergic to anything delicious.
In a manner of speaking, although you could say the patients I deal with are rather unusual.
In addition to medicine, Emily is also very knowledgeable about botany. She's taught me a lot about the native flora around Fontaine.
And that's where my expertise ends, I'm afraid. When it comes to breadth of knowledge, Tainari certainly comes out on top.
A flower expert? Oh, Paimon's got it! You must be the expert Tainari mentioned, the one in charge of the exhibition!
Wrong again, I'm afraid.
Well, I did come for the exhibition, but only to inquire about the Auguste variety. I'm not involved in any official capacity.
Oh, Paimon was sure she got it right this time.
It's a kind of flower that was once popular in Fontaine. The perfume made from it also bears the same name, Auguste.
Auguste, huh? That's not a name you hear often nowadays.
In an ancient language, the word is said to mean sacred or noble. It's sometimes used as a name for people as
Après,
well.
Picasso en soi,
Ah,
KV te
that
donne
reminds
accès
me.
à un type de
Are
gameplay
you
que t'as pas vu que t'as pas
familiar
ni
with the
loin.
historical event in Fontaine known as
En plus, t'as la
Perfumania?
les C2, la C3.
Perfumania was an event that
Et qui
occurred
se
in
joue à
Fontaine nearly 20
Bloom.
years ago.
J'aurais préféré choper
It
un
all
arc. T'es
started
vraiment dans
when
la bulle.
several merchants released their own
T'as bien
lines
raison.
of high-end,
Il est nul.
expensive perfumes, marketing them as must-have luxury products, the very symbol of elegance itself. No one anticipated the absolute frenzy this would create on the market, causing the price of perfumes to skyrocket. The demand was twofold. What some saw as a status symbol, most saw as a money-making opportunity. You could take
Ah oui,
advantage
Casso, il a
of
pas
the
connu
soaring
cette
price
période
by hoarding them
où il pouvait faire
and
disparaître
reselling at
définitivement des
even
morceaux de
higher
map
margins.
ou des donjons de
The
certains
value
joueurs.
of these products became so inflated, regular bottles of perfume were even going for hundreds of thousands of mora. This resulted in countless disputes and scams. But at the end of the day, perfume is just perfume. The market value greatly exceeded the intrinsic worth of the product, creating an economic bubble that was never going to last. Luckily, the Palais Mermonia recognized the danger and intervened before the craze could truly spread. Many profiteers and scammers were thrown in jail as a result. In the end, only a few wealthy families were affected when the bubble popped.
What does all this have to do with that Auguste you mentioned earlier?
Well, during the craze, the most popular perfume was none other than Auguste. The demand far exceeded the supply, to the point where it once sold for 10 million mora a bottle.
10 million? Then what about now?
After the mania ended, most perfumes returned to a normal price. Auguste was the only exception. Its namesake, the flower used to create it, went extinct. As a result, no new bottles of Auguste have been made, and the value of the perfume remains exceedingly high. Indeed, the Auguste flower was not a natural variety, you see. It was specially cultivated for use in perfume making. When the bubble popped, all the flower beds used for its cultivation were destroyed in
Oh,
a
Casso qui
fire.
connaît pas encore cette
The
musique-là.
variety has never
La
been
musique du
seen
port.
since.
Au sang jaillit.
Didn't you say you came to the exhibition to look for it?
Ah bah voilà, Zik il a entendu
Yes.
cette musique, ça lui fait penser à Nice, il a envie de déménager.
Rumor that the Auguste
Oh.
flower has reappeared in Sumeru. It's causing quite the stir in the Fontaine perfume market.
Traveler, we should help Emily look for it.
I have to agree. Emily wrote me to ask if I could look into the rumor, but the forest rangers haven't received any reports of new plant species recently.
Even if I can locate the flower, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed, Paimon. I don't have any grand Mora-making endeavors planned. Divine, noble, one of a kind, all beautiful sentiments to be sure, but to me, they overshadow the very essence of the product. When it comes to perfume, I want people to forget the price and the prestige and focus on the beauty of the fragrance itself.
Wow, so noble.
Of course, there's also a more practical reason. In recent years, low-grade counterfeit versions of Auguste have been popping up on the Fontaine perfume market. Every so often, someone will claim to have recreated the unique scent of Auguste, and the rumor mill will start comparing the counterfeits to my own work.
Okay, that's more like the reason Paimon had in mind.
Ever since that rumor started, 3 new perfumes claiming to be made from the Auguste flower have appeared on the market. If I can dispel the fanaticism surrounding Auguste, even just by proving the rumor to be false, Fontaine's perfume market can finally start to get back to normal. Then I'll be free from all the stories and added meaning and just focus on making what I like.
That makes sense.
Oh, I would of course be grateful for your help, but I wouldn't want to trouble you.
Well, you said it yourself. We're both travelers from abroad, so it's only right that we help each other out.
Ha! I suppose you're right. Then you have my thanks.
Based on the information I have so far,
Comment ça, faut que
it's
tu m'envoies
unclear
l'écran
if
du
the
launcher
rumor is
de
true.
Toff. J'imagine
Mr.
qu'ils ont mis des
Edgar also
boobs,
thinks it's too early to
vu
say.
le virage qu'ils essayent
But
de
you could
prendre.
always go talk to him. He was there all those years ago, after all. Maybe he'll know
Full
something.
boobs, full round
Ah,
kékette.
I was just about to pay him a
Oh, il
visit
doit
at the hotel.
Bleh.
Edgar? Who's that?
The person you've been trying to guess this whole time. The flower expert in charge of the exhibition. He's also the most respected and experienced perfumer in the area. Back when he was still working in Fontaine, Auguste was his creation.
I should also mention, he was my teacher, the one who taught me the basics of perfumery when I apprenticed in Sumeru.
So this guy was a famous perfumer in Fontaine, but then he came to Sumeru to teach people from Fontaine? It sounds confusing.
It's a lot.
Ça m'énerve, j'ai envie de la tester là. Elle manque de dégâts crits en plus. Elle a réussi à faire 67 000 avec seulement 132 de dégâts crits. Ah, d'ailleurs, attends, j'ai juste vérifié. Bon, désolé, hein, je coupe un peu la rediff du machin. Mais... Son arme, elle est en quoi du coup? Elle est en DC ou en TC? Elle est en tocrit. Hein. Ouah, son arme, elle est... Oh putain. Son arme, elle est god tier. Hein. Pour elle, en tout cas. Alors, l'attaque de base, niveau 90, je sais pas, mais... Bonus d'attaque de 15%, bonus de dégâts directs, bonus de recharge. Putain, bon sang flocos. Ouais, mais j'ai déjà l'arc de Yelan. On va pas troll, il y a bientôt Natlan. J'ai presque envie d'invoquer l'arme juste pour voir... pour bien la stuff, quoi. Mais bon. J'ai quand même cette lance qui est très bien et qui dort depuis des années. Là. Enfin, des années, non, parce qu'avant, elle était sur lui avant qu'il récupère Romain. Bah, ça ira très bien. Mais j'avoue que j'aimerais bien choper genre 20 de dégâts qui est en plus. Donc on va essayer de refarmer un peu son donjon. Et de remédier à tout ça, n'est-ce pas? J'ai repris mon caille. Bah, let's go, of course. Go l'arme, ouais, d'accord. T'as 300 balles, Zénith? Et c'est avec plaisir que j'irai la chercher. M'oblige pas à désactiver les récompenses de points de chaîne, s'il te plaît. Aïe aïe aïe. On caille, pourquoi? Parce qu'il y avait un perso qui te plaisait, Fucos? Ou parce que t'es beurré? Et moi je vais regarder ce que tu m'as envoyé. En plus, je suis mute. Je disais arrête, je suis trop pauvre.
I almost didn't recognize you, Edgar.
Well, you and your brother haven't changed a bit.
Oh, yeah, all this catching up is nice and all, but let's get down to business. We need to talk about Kyria. Is he...
Hold on, we have guests.
Ouais, d'accord, j'ai regardé le truc que tu m'as envoyé, Toff.
Emily?
À deux doigts de se mettre la caméra dans le cul, la madame, non? C'est quoi cette image de mort, là?
I've heard you've become quite the famous perfumer in Fontaine. It would seem the
Je verrai pas
student
bien,
has
mais...
surpassed the master.
Ceci est un cul. Ceci est un launcher de gacha, de Toff. J'ai failli vomir.
Hardly. I taught you the basics. Hearing you call me master, well, I'm not sure I'm deserving
Zénith,
of
je suis
that
coincé en
title.
enquête, c'est vraiment
I've
dommage.
taught many students here in Sumeru over the years, but I've yet to see one turn out quite as accomplished as you. You're the only one who can take credit for that success. And who are these two? I don't recall you mentioning them in your letter.
Ah, they're my new friends, the Traveler and Paimon.
Emily's friends. Well then, the pleasure is all mine.
And these two gentlemen?
Putain, mais là, ils nous font le combo des PNJ qu'on a déjà vu 25 fois. Là.
Of course.
Ils ont juste la couleur de moustache ou des yeux qui changent. Le S.
I'm Ood, and this here is my younger brother, Blaze. Edgar and the two of us are old friends. Isn't that right, gentlemen?
Yes.
Merchant Brothers?
You must be here to look for the Auguste flower, then.
Huh?
Well, what
Ah oui.
respectable
S'il a les sourcils froncés, ça veut dire que c'est un méchant. Attention. Soyons attentifs.
I'm guessing you're here for the same reason, Emily. We were just about to get into it, so you three might as
Enfin,
well
les deux
join
ont
in.
l'air vénères en fait, oui. Les deux, oui.
I commissioned a few eremites to do some scouting for me. They searched all over Sumeru, but there were no sightings of the august flower. That being said, there are people in Port Ormos who claim to have smelled a unique fragrance on the streets. Definitely floral, but still distinct. Some of them were merchants who lived in Fontaine 20 years ago. According to them, the fragrance smelled exactly like the august they remember from back then. A one-of-a-kind, divine, and noble scent.
Maybe someone around here just happens to have a bottle of August from back then.
No, I don't think so. I doubt that's the case. Even if someone had a bottle that was never opened, the fragrance of the perfume would have changed over time. Very few perfumes can go decades without a change in scent. Auguste is even more prone to that kind of shift. Only a few bottles still exist in Fontaine, and their scent would have completely degraded by now. Although, could there be a flower out there with a similar fragrance? Or in accord with the same base notes?
Impossible! If Auguste were that easy to replicate, it would never have sold for such a high price all those years ago. The Auguste flower is back. It has to be.
Technically speaking, the scent wouldn't be impossible to imitate.
Well, let's table that question for now. Edgar, did any of those people mention where the scent was coming from?
No. By the time they realized they had smelled something, the scent was already gone. If I hadn't asked about it, they probably wouldn't have given the experience a second thought. Compared to things we see and hear, smells can be much easier to overlook.
It almost sounds like someone wearing the Auguste fragrance passed them on the street.
Wait, are you saying...
Just thinking out loud. Don't pay me any mind.
We don't have much to go off of right now, but we can't rule out that possibility. I'll send some more people to investigate. You all traveled so far to be here. Why don't you rest in the hotel for a bit?
Et en plus, il s'appelle ED Blaise. Hein. Ils ont pu mettre Jean Eudes au moins.
Ooh, you've got the keys to the room?
Eudes.
Do we get free lodging too?
My apologies. All the rooms in the hotel are accounted for, I'm afraid. Most are being used for storage ahead of the exhibition, you see. I managed to tidy up one of the rooms for these two at the last minute, but by the time Emily wrote to me, there was no more space left for her to stay.
Oh, and
Et du coup, Zénith, t'as regardé les talons de tous les personnages de Genshin ou pas? J'ai l'impression que c'est celle qui a les plus hauts talons. Je sais pas, ça, vu que je l'ai remarqué, je pense que c'est le cas. Après voir avec Yelan, Yelan elle a des talons. Comment ça, non? Non, t'as pas regardé ou non? Non, c'est belle. Parce que c'est bizarre quand tu fais ses auto-attaques, ses talons sont mieux en avant vu sa posture. Donc, je sais pas. Yelan a des talons, ouais, faut que je regarde. Et je me dis, ce qui manque à Emily, est-ce que ce serait pas un perso qui enchante les auto-attaques en dendro? Comme une Candace ou... Yo-Yo, vous savez ce qu'il vous reste à faire? Ah. Ils ont oublié de payer la doubleuse.
Of course, no trouble at all. My brother and I will keep an eye on them for you, as long as you don't mind, mademoiselle.
All right then. Oud, why don't you take Emily inside and find a suitable place for her luggage? I'll prepare some refreshments and join you in a bit.
Alors, c'est vraiment une des meilleures musiques du jeu, celle-là. Et je suis dégoûté, avant j'avais une chaîne enregistrée qui avait juste la musique, ça a été fermé. Après c'est dispo sur les chaînes de Genshin, faut que je regarde. Mais comme disait Legends, c'était un banger.
Whoa, the smell of flowers is so strong. Edgar say he tidied up around here? There's still so many flowers. Paimon took a peek through the window earlier and his house was packed with flowers. Looks like this exhibition is gonna be huge.
No, that's a florist thing. We work closely with the essential oils of various plants, but to maintain a sharp sense of smell, most perfumers prefer to keep their homes free of strong odors.
Oh, guess there's just too much to store for the exhibition then.
Oh, this room seems to be a connected suite, and my brother will be staying on the other side of the suite. Blaze, while you're out, why don't you bring our luggage over as well?
Dun, 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 dun.
Blaze!
Yes, of course.
All right, then. Where can we find your luggage, mademoiselle? Blaze will go fetch it for you.
It's still at the port. In addition to some daily necessities, there's also a case of amber wine that I brought back from Fontaine. Could I trouble you to bring that back
Musique
as
de
well?
combat Fontaine.
It would be the perfect way to repay you
Violon,
for your
ouais.
hospitality.
Faudrait que je la réentende pour voir. Mais ouais, il y a des musiques incroyables.
You stumbled upon his weakness. He's aloof about most things.
Parce qu'après, bon, je trouvais que Genshin avait des défauts, mais niveau OST, ils ont quand même,
Is that so?
ils ont quand même ce qu'il faut. Et bonsoir Pomme sur YouTube. Comment ça va?
Mr. Oud, Mr. Blaze, thanks for...
Hey! What are you doing?
That's Master's voice.
Edgar qui se fait manger par des... je ne sais quoi.
Edgar!
Master!
Hey, Edgar! Are you alright? Can you hear me?
Who did this?
Il y avait un truc par terre derrière lui. Ah oui? Est-ce que ce serait pas un truc de parfum?
Kyria!
Hey, Edgar? Edgar!
No, don't shake him. He's injured. Just
Il
leave him
respire
to me.
toujours.
You two
C'est
can...
déjà ça.
Oh, thank you.
Et personne n'a vu le truc qui est à côté de lui là. Genre ça là. Et merci.
That strange smell
Et
around
puis t'as la boîte
here.
aussi.
Is it coming from this bottle?
Oui, c'est un flacon, ouais. Après il y a Emily la pro de parfums et compagnie. Et là-bas apparemment il y a des trucs. Les fleurs.
Do you think whoever did this was hiding in the flowers before they attacked Edgar?
Une grosse cachette. Après si elle est efficace la cachette en vrai. Pas d'empreinte. Fort peu. Je sais plus bien. Emily, ouais, je l'ai testé du coup, Pomme. Je suis plutôt content des dégâts qu'elle fait. Et pour l'instant, niveau team, je suis un peu perdu, on va dire. Je sais pas trop. Pour l'instant, j'ai testé Beizou, Emily, Léa et Bennett. Et Beizou, c'est surtout pour avoir un peu plus de heal et surtout avoir quelqu'un qui porte le set qui réduit la résistance d'Endro. Peut-être tester avec Naïda, il y aura plus de dégâts, mais bon. Entre Naïda et Emily, je vais pas trop comprendre. Ça va être le bordel. Mais le perso a l'air d'avoir du potentiel. C'est plutôt une bonne nouvelle. Mais bon, sachant qu'il y a un Atlan qui arrive dans 3 semaines, je peux comprendre que certains joueurs ne s'intéressent pas trop à elle.
The most important thing we can do now is focus our efforts on treating Master. Can you help me move him inside?
Comment ça, Ikasso? Je pense qu'on doit mettre fin aux souffrances du papy. Ikasso, t'abuses. Le pauvre. Si encore c'était KV, j'aurais compris, mais pas Edgar, enfin.
When I administered emergency treatment, I discovered a residue in his nose and mouth. Master was most
Ah, on
likely
lui aurait
forced
calé
to
dans la
ingest
bouche,
a
là?
certain liquid.
What?
He's still unconscious, and inducing vomiting could obstruct his airways. We'll have to look into other clues for now. Ah, yes. The scent is the same, but the chemical composition is still unclear. We'll have to do further tests to determine if it's the same liquid and how toxic it is to the human body. But first, I do believe there are two people who could shed some light on the situation. Mr. Sylvain, Mr. Lucien.
Wait, you know...
Hey! Were you talking to us, mademoiselle? I'm afraid we've never heard of those names
Mademoiselle.
Before arriving in Sumeru, I asked a friend from the Special Patrol to look into the creators of Auguste. There were 4 people in total. The
Regarde
perfumer,
ses jambes en haut à
Edgar,
droite.
the
là.
one thrust into the limelight,
Sa
and
robe
3
qui est façon, oui,
others.
c'est une espèce de robe
A
qui est...
researcher from
qui est
Sumeru
orange.
responsible for cultivating the Auguste flower, and 2 merchant brothers responsible for promoting the product on the market. The 2 brothers capitalized on the mythos surrounding Auguste. Their actions lured in numerous speculators and profiteers, inflating the price of Auguste even further. In the end, they were sent to the fortress of Meripede for falsifying their accounts and destabilizing the market. If you do the math, they should be out of prison by now.
And what does that have to do with us? There are countless merchant families in Fontaine.
Bon, après, Casso, ça fait ça depuis
You
le début
gonna
du jeu.
accuse
Hein.
them of being criminals
Les
too?
persos, tu vois,
Every time your brother
bouge plus les
called
lèvres,
you
ça continue de
Blaze,
parler.
it took you several seconds to respond.
Ça,
But
ça le
when
fait
I
depuis le
called
début, je
you
crois.
Lucien just now, the name registered immediately.
Mais bon, on s'y habitue.
Ah, Miss Emily.
Ah, d'accord,
Out of
Pomme, mais alors, du
respect for
coup,
your position
tu joues
as
sur
a
plusieurs
famous
comptes.
perfumer in
Bon, faut être
Fontaine,
déterminé.
I'm
Hein.
inclined to believe that was simply a poor attempt at humor.
Bon, je
You
pense que la
have
manette
a
va
bright
tenir.
future ahead of you.
J'espère.
You wouldn't want to develop a reputation as someone who throws around false accusations, especially among merchant circles.
You claim to be regular perfume merchants, and yet, when I brought up amber wine, you took it to be alcohol.
What?
Amber wine is a perfume I created several years ago. It wasn't particularly renowned, but I'm certain any respectable perfume merchant in Fontaine would know of it. Unless, until recently, they were living somewhere completely cut off from the perfume world.
Je crois que c'est pareil en japonais, Casso.
Somewhere like
J'ai eu le
the
jeu en
fortress
japonais
of
depuis le jour
Meripede,
1
perhaps?
jusqu'au milieu de la quête de Furina. Parce que la voix anglaise de Furina, c'est une masterclass. Et si tu veux, à Fontaine, je suis repassé en anglais. Et je crois que j'avais déjà ce souci. Hein. Ils cherchent pas forcément à avoir une synchro labiale.
Don't misunderstand, Mr.
Mais bon, si t'es
Sylvain.
déter, comme tu dis, à
I
tester
don't
en chinois,
bring this
coréen.
up to criticize
Let's
you.
go.
No matter what happened all
Tu
those
nous
years
diras.
ago, the court has already passed its judgment. But Master's life is in danger. We need to learn whatever we can about the person who has done this. If Master's attack had something to do with Auguste, I would imagine the 2 of you might also be in danger. So I'd like to trouble you for some information, if I may. Tell me about Kyria.
Fine, as you wish.
Sylvain?
Lucien, if this will help us find Kyria, then it will be all worth it. Besides, we've already told most of the stuff to the Maison Orderly anyway. You were right, Miss Emily. There were 4 of us at the beginning. Myself, Lucien, Edgar, and the researcher from Sumeru in charge of flower cultivation, Vijava. Sometime down the road, the Marechaussee Phantom came knocking, saddled us with a list of accusations, and started looking into our books. Oh, they did them
Non, Ikasso, la VF, c'était une collab ponctuelle avec Ritech, je sais pas comment ça se prononce.
Sounds like he's still upset about
C'est vraiment Genshin qui avait commandé
Wait,
une...
then how did Edgar end up in Sumeru?
Voilà, ils étaient ok avec le
Master
truc.
was convicted
Mais
as an
c'était juste
accomplice, so he only had to serve a few years.
ponctuel pour
He
faire plaisir.
decided to
mais
move to Sumeru
c'est pas un
so that
projet
he
de
could
passer le
put
genre
those
VF.
events behind him.
Ça demanderait trop de taf, t'imagines?
Master was depressed for a long time after that. He stopped
Et
making
Pomme
new
qui joue sur PS4
perfumes
sur
and
plusieurs
focused
comptes.
on introducing
Parce que t'avais les
students to the
rôles et du
craft
coup t'as gardé les
instead.
comptes, ok.
That's how I met him. My parents had to relocate to
faut être déter,
Sumeru for work when I
pour
was a
monter plusieurs
child,
comptes.
so I had the chance to
J'avais fait
study
un peu au
under
début,
him
je crois
for
que
a
mon
little
deuxième
while.
compte il est à R40 et des
But we
bananes.
can talk about that some other time. I want
Au
to
bout
hear
d'un
more
moment,
about this researcher,
c'est lourd.
Vijava.
Like us, Vijava was also staring down an investigation from the Marechaussee Phantom. But before the Phantom
Mais
showed
après
up at
genre
her
un an,
door,
ça en
she set
reparlait,
all
ouais,
the
je suis pas au
flower
courant de
beds
ça.
on fire, along with much
Mais ça
of
se
the
fera pas.
mora we managed to earn.
Ils peuvent pas redoubler
All the
4 ans,
Auguste
5 ans de
flowers,
contenu.
everything we worked to create was reduced to nothing but a pile of ash.
C'est possible, hein, mais je pense que ça demande trop de
Destroying all
moyens.
that
Trop de...
evidence.
Oh
Wouldn't
non, du
that
contenu
make things
Genshin.
worse for her?
Icolo, t'as eu Yelan ou pas? Est-ce que t'as tenté
It
la
didn't matter
Yelan?
at that point, because she died in the fire as well.
Ou tu peux tenter Emily. On ne sait jamais, Nico
Sounds like you
Cubic.
did an investigation of your own. Why even ask us if you knew all of this already?
The name wasn't mentioned in any of the files I reviewed either, but you two seem quite familiar with him.
Kyria was Vijava's younger brother. He was just a clueless kid back then.
Comment ça, un Vitel qui a pris un coup
Somewhere in his
sur la chaîne?
teens, I think. He
J'ai
helped
pas
his
vu.
sister with her
Bien
work
sûr.
sometimes.
Après, je les suis pas,
but
donc,
that was pretty much it. He didn't have any idea what we were doing. Vijava kept him close most of the time.
Le seul des
The
avantages
three
que
of
je
us
vois,
were
et
probably
encore,
the only
en fonction desquels
ones
ça
who
va.
even knew she
Ça devrait faire les événements en
had
boucle.
After our
Ouais.
operation was
Après, je sais pas
compromised,
combien
he
de comptes tu as, mais
disappeared.
si t'as 4
There were
comptes et
no
que tu dois faire 4 fois de
signs
suite
of
les mêmes
him
trucs,
until recently,
ça peut
when
être un peu
people
chiant.
started saying the Auguste flower
Le duo s'est
had
arrêté, l'un des
reappeared
deux
in Sumeru.
aurait fait une Norman.
So,
Ah.
you think Kyria took something with him
Oupsie,
back then?
d'accord.
Something that allowed him to
Moi, j'ai
reproduce
pas vu
the
l'info.
Auguste flower?
Vijava doted on the kid like you wouldn't believe. She even told us to give her cut to her brother if anything happened to her. If she left something behind before she died, believe me, Kyria's the one that has it.
And judging by the liquid in that bottle, the Auguste flower wasn't the only thing he reproduced.
Après, on a quand même un mec qui
He
s'appelle Sylvain,
managed to
si jamais.
replicate the perfume
Est-ce que c'est
itself.
pas un merveilleux prénom?
So the liquid Edgar was forced to ingest really was Auguste. Wait, does that mean Auguste is poison?
Poison? No, no. Of course not. No perfume is meant to be ingested. Even small amounts can be dangerous, let alone ingesting a whole bottle at once. If Auguste could be considered a poison, we wouldn't have even sold half a bottle back then. Edgar fell unconscious because Kyria forced him to drink perfume. It just happened to be Auguste.
Oui, mais il n'y a pas de Lucas dans le Genshin avec Asso. Pas que je sache. Alors, peut-être qu'il y en a eu un, je sais pas, dans les PNJ depuis le temps, je crois pas, ça me dit rien.
He probably thought we had something to do with his sister's death. But to tell
Attends,
you
t'as fait
the
16
truth,
comptes,
I
Pomme.
have no idea
Pomme
why
qui nous
she
dit
did
sur
all
YouTube.
that.
On peut monter jusqu'à
We're
16
not
comptes sur
looking for
PS4, après on est
Kyria
bloqué.
because we have it out for him.
Quoi?
We just wanted to see how he was doing.
Ah oui, t'as fait pas
And
mal
if
d'heures heroes.
possible, work together to bring back
Ah, il y a eu un Lucas avec un
Auguste.
K, sans
We
S.
only went to prison for a bit of
rappelle
fraud
pas.
and market
Pourquoi 16?
manipulation.
Ou peut-être
It
16
had
comptes à la fois?
nothing to do with the
Je sais pas.
product itself. As long as
C'est
we keep
limite.
things honest this time around.
Après, c'est sur PS4, peut-être que sur
bringing
PS5
the
ça change rien.
product back to market would almost be like honoring his
Mais
sister's
je suis sûr que sur Switch c'est limité aussi. Hein.
So that's
Tu peux
why
pas
you
mettre
never
25 comptes sur
mentioned
la console, je
Kyria
pense.
during your interrogation?
Yes, exactly. We were just looking out for the
Bah,
kid.
je sais pas, Ikasso, quelqu'un qui joue sur 16 comptes
Anyway, that's
Genshin
all
par
we
exemple.
know. If you're looking for information on what's
Ça, il peut faire
in
16
a
PT
goose
différentes
or what
à
to
chaque mage.
do if you ingest it, there are only two people to
Mais il y avait à
ask.
l'époque, j'ai perdu son nom, mais il y avait une meuf qu'on
Or
regardait un peu avec
Kyria
Guillaume.
himself.
Elle avait un compte
Well,
free-to-play
at
où
least
genre elle
we're able to
faisait
say for certain that
des
the
teams
substance
géo,
Edgar
genre avec
ingested
Ito,
was in fact a
et sur son
goose.
compte secondaire.
That gives us a direction for
Comme ça, elle
further
sacrifiait
testing.
pas les primogèmes de son compte principal.
Well then, I'd say that was a
Et
very
ça demande un
enlightening
investissement
discussion.
en temps, quoi.
Well, glad to hear it. Lucian, let's head back to the room and rest a bit. With everything that's happened, there are things that need reconsidering.
Yes, of course.
Ah, you think so too? That does seem to be the case. Pity we don't have more evidence. But based on Sylvain's tone of voice just now, I suspect further questioning will only result in more made-up answers.
The way you exposed them like that, just based on a hunch, that was genius! Oh, right! Earlier you said you were only sort of a doctor, and that your patients were unusual.
Oh yes, that's because most of the patients I encounter are already dead.
So you're a forensic doctor?
Close. I'm actually a forensic cleaner. Once the forensic team and the Marechaussee Phantom are done collecting evidence from the scene, I'm in charge of clearing away the final traces my patients leave on the world. In fact, with just a small alteration to the formula, the same tincture used as the base of perfume can also be made into a cleaning agent. Basically, there are two sides to forensics: those who collect evidence to expose the truth, and those who clean up the smells, bloodstains, and other substances left behind at the scene. I've learned a lot in my line of work, and I've witnessed a lot of death. But this time, we may still save the patient. Actually, Traveler, could I trouble you to report back to Tighnari and the officers at Port Ormos? We should all stay here and continue to look after Master. Now that we have a sample of Auguste, I'm hoping further analysis won't be too difficult.
Donc c'est une nettoyeuse, on va dire. Alors la petite Emily, là. Tac. Double de contenu. Ouais, non mais... Après, je pense que tu fais pas tout dans la même journée, mais quand même. La Tighnari est toujours là-bas. Après, en vrai, si tu joues à rien d'autre... Parce que bon, même moi, j'ai arrêté les autres gachas, mais à un moment, j'ai quand même essayé pendant un mois Wuthering Waves. J'ai joué un mois à ZZZ, donc en soi... C'est aussi du temps que tu mets dans des gachas. Hein, donc, Mais c'est vrai que c'est... Voilà. Ça prend du temps. Mais c'est ce que tu disais, Pomme, ouais, tu joues pas... Tu joues pas à grand-chose d'autre.
Why the rush? Did something happen?
What? Edgar was attacked? He's the most famous perfumer in the region. Someone who's helped countless people around Port Ormos. How could this happen?
Sheriff, have you received any reports of a suspicious individual fleeing through the bazaar?
No, but we've got eyes all over the area. I'm sure someone's seen Kyria. I'll start gathering my forces. We won't let him get away.
What about you, Tighnari? Do you have a plan?
I'm sure the sheriff can handle things over at the scene, and I doubt Emily needs my help looking after Mr. Edgar.
But she said she's not a real doctor.
Then she was far too modest. She may not be a doctor by trade, but she has a deeper understanding of human anatomy and pharmacology than most scholars from the Amorta Darshan. Not to mention the fact that Mr. Edgar's condition is related to perfume. Emily is certainly in the best position to help him. As for me, I'll head to the academia and see what I can learn about Vijava and Kyria.
Oh, that's right! Vijava was supposed to be a scholar from Sumeru. Do you recognize the name?
From Emily's letter, certainly, but that was the first time I'd heard of it. The academia produces a lot of scholars, and there are plenty of graduates who choose to pursue a career outside their darshan. I didn't have time to look into it earlier, but now it seems like Vijava's past could be critical to getting to the bottom of what happened to Mr. Edgar. I have friends in Sumeru City that can help me investigate. With any luck, we'll have news to share by tomorrow. I'll leave you and Emily to watch over things here in Port Ormos.
Quatre bouquins, let's go. Le lendemain, 7h. Non, puis j'aime bien ça. Alors ça sert à rien, elle m'a fait des petites fleurs quand une attaque chargée. Tac. Après, il n'y a pas à dire, pour un jeu gratuit, le contenu est immense. Bien plus que beaucoup de jeux payants. Et oui, puis il faut aussi comprendre que le jeu il peut pas être à son prime et en full hype tous les jours pendant 4 ans. Parce que sur les forums, tu vois tellement de gens râler, machin, mais... Normalement c'est un gacha, c'est normal qu'il y ait des cycles et qu'il y ait des périodes de creux. Mais avec toute l'exploration que ça a proposé, les histoires qu'on a eues, les gens ils sont dans l'abus des fois. Et reflucos.
But things weren't looking good with Emily's master yesterday. We should check on things at the hotel first.
Ok Pemon, ils ont oublié de te doubler ou enfin de te traduire? Ah, Flucos qui jouait à un jeu de Neliel peut-être?
Emily!
No longer in critical condition, thankfully. He's still very weak, but with a bit more rest, he should regain consciousness soon. My chemical analysis of Auguste also went smoothly, although it certainly raised some questions. I was able to identify the components that give the substance its fragrance, but I also noticed an abnormal trace of elemental energy in the sample.
Elemental energy?
Hard to say. It was such a minute amount, proportionally speaking, like mixing a single drop of perfume into the ocean. I had to use one of the newest tests developed in recent years to even detect the traces present in the sample. Unless you were abnormally sensitive to elemental energy, I doubt it would have any effect, even if you use the product every day for 10 years. As for whether Master's condition was caused by the elemental energy present in the sample or some other component of the perfume, it's still too early to say.
Oh, that reminds Paimon. Did Tighnari come and find you? Maybe we could ask him to take a look.
I received a message from him last night, but I haven't heard anything since. The message said he was looking into some information at the academia.
Oh, Paimon thought he might have stopped by to see you first. Excuse me? Is Miss Emily here? Oh, perfect! Familiar faces! Traveler, Paimon, you're here too!
Kale. Ah, of course. Tighnari's apprentice. He's mentioned you many times. It's a pleasure to finally meet you. And please, no need for formalities. Emily is just fine.
Oh, okay. Nice to meet you too, Miss, Emily. Did Tighnari send you here, Kale? Yep. Master and the others went through decades worth of records last night, and still haven't had a chance to rest. I'm fast on my feet, so it only made sense for me to come and give you an update. Anyway, based on what they've reviewed so far, they believe there's no indication that a researcher by the name of Vijava ever passed through the academia.
Ouais, Emily avec un H. C'est ça.
Master considered that possibility as well, but the name wasn't the only dead end. Master tried to track down people with a similar research direction or background, but also couldn't find a match. How is that possible?
It's starting to seem very likely. If we want to figure out her true identity, I'm afraid another conversation with those two merchants might be our only...
Hey! Lucian!
It's Sylvain! Wait, you don't think Kirio came back, do you?
That seems impossible. If someone came in or out of the hotel just now, we would have seen them.
Alors, Emily, comment te dire? T'as pas besoin de monter sur les portes. Tu peux bien.
It's locked?
Oula. Edgar.
There's no one here.
Lucian! Lucian!
Lucien.
That's Sylvain's voice! Hurry, let's check...
Mais qu'est-ce qui se passe?
Lucian! Lucian! Come on! Wake up! Emily, Emily, my brother, he's gonna be okay, right? He's just unconscious. Like what happened to Edgar.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sylvain, but we were too late this time.
No, no.
Wow, il y a des morts dans Genshin.
That's not possible.
C'est pas souvent.
Traveler, Kale, Mr. Sylvain has gone through a huge shock. He needs some space to calm down. Could one of you take him next door? It's not good for him to look at his brother's body like this.
Of course. Leave it to me.
Thank you both. Mr. Sylvain, let's get you up. Here, take my hand. Nice and slow. We'll take things from here. Just focus on getting some rest. Here, this way.
Poor guy. He's like a shell of his former self. He may have made some bad decisions in life, but right now, Paimon can't help but feel sorry for him.
Good person or bad, the death of a loved one is equally painful. All the moments he shared with his brother, every hardship and triumph they endured together, are now memories he has to carry alone.
If Kiria really was behind this, then what exactly did he do to Lucien?
Lucien can no longer speak, but the traces left behind by his death most certainly can. Traveler, I've got things covered here at the scene. I'll leave you to contact the sheriff.
Who would have thought? Yesterday's case is still up in the air, and now this happens. Miss Emily, I heard you're an experienced forensic doctor. Have you been able to discover anything?
Oh, I'm not actually a forensic doctor. I just happen to have some relevant knowledge. I did take a look, though. Judging by the temperature and rigidity of the body, it appears the time of death was sometime last night. I'd have to do a more thorough investigation to find out more.
Then, would you mind helping us investigate? Before he left, Tainari said we could trust your judgment if something like this were to happen.
Of course, I appreciate your trust. Many of the traces left behind at the scene will fade with time, so the sooner we investigate, the better.
We'll help too. We don't know much about dead bodies, but you can leave the other clues to us.
Oh, punaise.
Pupils are dilated.
Oui, mais elle a
skin
l'habitude.
is washed.
C'est la pro des...
Nope.
du nettoyage, on avait dit. Mais arrête de parler à Emily.
Pupils are dilated.
Regarde les trucs. Observez le bagage. Sac lourd. D'ailleurs, de loin, pendant la cinématique, je pensais que c'était un coffre. L'armoire. On dit pas qu'il était caché dans l'armoire. Oui, donc quand même. De l'encens. Une fleur. Ça sent très bon, merci pour ce commentaire. À l'extérieur. Il y a un truc derrière, dehors? Non, j'ai raté à l'intérieur, je pense. Mais il y avait 2 chambres, non? Bon, je sais pas. C'est bizarre vu que t'as les 2 portes. Bref. Ah non, parce qu'il y a observé la porte. Oh putain. Et... oh, on se calme le jeu. Merde, du coup, je skip. Ouais. Quel event?
So, did you find anything?
Ah, les trucs de combat, je sais pas.
Paimon can show you. Here,
J'en
it'd be
sais rien,
something like this.
ça va taper les années plus cause. Ou alors ça va t'empêcher juste d'avoir certains trucs, mais normalement t'as les primogèmes déjà. Même si tu fais pas le niveau max.
Entering through the room next door without alerting Sylvain. Wait, you don't think Sylvain could have been the one who?
No.
Des fois, le dernier mode de difficulté, c'est pour des cailloux ou des moras, c'est pas non plus
And he doesn't
très
have a
important.
motive.
Tant que t'as les primogèmes, le skin et la constellation de
I know
Kirara,
Sylvain is
c'est
still in shock, but he's our only available witness. We have to take his statement.
I agree. Also, I've made some new discoveries, so we might as well head next door and go through everything together.
Après, c'est peut-être que t'as pas les bonnes teams ou les bons persos, je sais pas. Après, moi, j'ai pas eu de problème, mais bon, vu que j'ai quasiment tous les persos du jeu. Sauf la vieille Shuri.
Mr. Sylvain, I need you to tell me everything you and your brother did since yesterday afternoon. Did you see or hear anything strange?
After Kyria attacked Edgar, my brother and I were incredibly careful. We returned to our rooms and decided to lock all the doors leading to the hallway. The only door we kept unlocked was the one connecting our rooms. That way, if we heard any commotion coming from the other room, we could help each other. But I didn't hear any sort of commotion last night. Not a single noise. I woke up this morning, opened the door, and Lucian was...
So, no movement from the room next door. No forced entry via Sylvain's room. No signs of a struggle at the scene. And no external injury on Lucian's body. What kind of cause of death are we dealing with here?
I did notice a few things about the body. Lucian's pupils were dilated, and his skin was flushed, very similar to Master's symptoms after the attack yesterday. There weren't any traces of liquid in his mouth or nose, so it's unlikely he was forced to ingest anything. The
Oui,
more
bon, déjà,
plausible
si tu joues
explanation is that
sucrose et
he
Amber,
inhaled the substance without knowing it.
c'est sûr que
And
tu
I'd
risques pas d'y
say that
arriver.
substance
Même
was
Keking, hein.
likely a ghost.
Je l'aime bien de base, hein. C'est, je crois, mon premier ou deuxième 5 stars. Mais
Inhaling a
bon.
goose won't kill you. And anyway, it would have been... No. That's not what I meant.
Pareil, Barbara, c'est caca boudin.
You ran your tests,
Si t'as
didn't
Kokomi,
you?
Kokomi
Go
est
on.
10 fois mieux.
Tell
Elle fait un peu de
everyone
dégâts,
whether
il
you
est beaucoup
found
mieux.
any
Donc,
poison.
No, I didn't
Puis
find any
sucrose,
common toxins.
Sucrose, c'est peut-être la moins pire
See,
dans ce que t'as dit.
A goose is harmless. The market response proved that years ago.
Et encore, faut la jouer verte chasseuse et full maîtrise élémentaire.
That
Dans les bonnes
may be
teams.
true for most people, but not for everyone.
Master!
Edgar? You're up and about already?
Thanks to Emily, I'm out of the woods for now. Sylvain, no matter how hard you may try to hide it, the truth will always come to light.
Edgar!
Even if we could keep it a secret for another 10 or 20 years, do you think Kyria would just let us be? No, he would never give up. Not if he's doing all of this for Yelena. That's Vijava's real name. Yelena wasn't a scholar from Sumeru. She was an exiled Fatus from Snezhnaya.
Oh, Fatus?
The Fatui. Well, that means the elemental energy present in Auguste was...
Ah, so you've already detected it. Well, Sylvain, looks like there's truly no reason to hide things now.
Oh.
The Auguste flower was created with the mutative and distorting power of a delusion.
A delusion?
The Fatui delusions. I never would have thought a ghost was hiding this many secrets.
Born of a delusion, Auguste contained distorted elemental energy. A prolonged exposure over many years could have a harmful effect on the body.
That's enough, Edgar. I'll take it from here. At first, Yelena wanted to keep refining the perfume and the flower, but no one knew how long the perfume mania was going to last back then. It didn't have any effect on ordinary people anyway. Every day we postponed going to market was another day of lost earning potential.
So you decided poisoning people was worth the risk?
Listen, it's not like it was good for business. But all that talk about Auguste being harmful over time, Yelena was just speculating. The impact was practically negligible. Unless you were particularly sensitive to elemental energy or had an entire bottle shoved down your throat like Edgar, you could use the product for decades and be completely fine.
It may be true there are no records of Auguste poisoning in Fontaine. But even if no one was acutely poisoned, willfully bringing a product to market despite explicit knowledge of its harmful effects is still a serious crime. That explains why you were so intent on keeping Yelena and Kiria's involvement a secret all this time, despite readily confessing to all your financial crimes. The Fatui, delusions, Auguste. If the Maréchaussée Phantom discovered the connection between the three, there would have been enough evidence to send you to the Fortress of Meripede for life.
Ha! If I'd known coming to Sumeru would put a target on my back, I would have been more than happy to stay there. At least that way, Lucien would still be alive. All these years without any sign of Kyria, and he pops up out of nowhere the minute my brother and I get out of prison? It couldn't be any clearer who the kid's after. Auguste was harmless before. The fact that it's killing people all of a sudden must be his doing as well.
So there's bad blood between you.
What about Yelena's death? Was that a cover-up too? A way to destroy evidence?
I'll admit, we thought about it at one point. We took care to disguise the product circulating on the market, and no one was questioning Yelena's fake identity. But if the Maréchaussée Phantom decided to look into the flower beds, it would have been the end. Yelena's ties to the Fatui, the role of the delusion, everything would have been exposed. Before we could even put our plan in motion, Yelena beat us to it. She burned all her flower beds and threw herself into the fire as well.
But if her goal was to destroy evidence, there would have been no reason to do that to herself. Yeah, she could have just burned the flower beds and fled with her brother.
I thought about it for a long time, but it wasn't until just now that I finally understood her reasoning. Everything she did, it was for her brother, Kyria. One of the reasons they defected from the Fatui was the deterioration of Yelena's body due to her excessive use of a delusion. She didn't want her brother to follow in her footsteps after her death. After arriving in Fontaine, Yelena continued using the delusion to cultivate the Auguste flower, weakening her
J'arrive au meilleur
body
moment.
even further.
Il doit
There were
rester 1 heure et
times
14.
when she couldn't even walk.
So she couldn't flee with her brother
Ça va.
because she was afraid of holding him back.
If her true identity was exposed, she and her brother would face pressure from both Snezhnaya and Fontaine. The Auguste flower and Yelena's own corroded body both bore the mark of a delusion. There would have been no way to avoid suspicion. So, in the end, she burnt it all to ash including herself. With all the evidence erased, Kyria was free to take Mora and run.
So the wealth you earned from Auguste, it wasn't destroyed in the fire. Yelena gave it to her brother?
Moi, j'ai rien eu d'intéressant en 4
Most likely.
mais j'ai gagné mon 50-50
Before Yelena
entre 70 et
died,
80
she said
PT
if
normal.
anything
Donc,
happened to her, she was going to leave
je suis content, moi j'ai
everything
pas
to
besoin
her
de poudre
brother.
beaucoup.
We
Vu la
just
tronche de la
didn't
bannière.
realize she meant our cut as well. That's why
Et
Lucy
j'aurais bien
and
aimé
I
voir un
were
petit perso, genre un
searching for
Mika
Kyria,
ou une chevreuse.
to take back our Mora and the Auguste flower. We just didn't realize
Du coup, je sais pas si
Kyria
t'as le
was
temps ou pas, parce que je pense que j'en ai
the
encore pour un
whole
moment.
time.
Ou sinon tu fais les envols de ton côté, c'est pas grave. Comme tu veux.
Why is Kyria out for revenge anyway? Doesn't he know about Yelena's decision to sacrifice herself?
I don't think he knew his sister was nearing death. Yelena always wore heavy makeup around him to conceal her deteriorating appearance. She kept herself busy with work to keep out of sight. That way her brother wouldn't notice how she could barely walk.
Then all we'll need to do is tell Kyria what really happened, and then he'll give up on his revenge.
I'm not so sure. Even if he knew the truth, he'd still find someone to blame. He might think Yelena was forced into using a delusion to cultivate a Auguste, or something like that. It's hard to pull yourself out of that kind of hatred,
Merci d'être
especially when you've been living in that headspace for so
resté.
many years.
Very true. Even if Yelena's death was her own choice,
Yes, ok, bon.
I wouldn't call myself innocent either.
We will see. T'inquiète.
Edgar, what are you talking about?
Think about it, Sylvain. If we hadn't been in such a hurry to capitalize on the perfume mania all those years ago, do you think Yelena would have elected to take those risks? If we hadn't been so blinded by greed, so insistent on increasing the scale of the flower cultivation, do you think Yelena's health would have deteriorated as fast as it did? If we hadn't invited the Marechaussee Phantom to our doorstep by breaking the law at every turn, Yelena could have survived.
She knew her limits. She knew her days were numbered. Maybe it was for her brother, but she was in it for the Mora just as much as us. We were just trying to earn a bit of Mora. And what, we deserve to die for that? Target me for being the mastermind, sure. But what about Lucien? He was just following my orders. Lucien's crime, was it really so extreme that he had to pay for it with his life?
The only person that can answer that question is a judge.
Fine. I've said my piece anyway. Drag me back to Fontaine to stand trial. I don't care.
3 people from Fontaine, 1 from Snezhnaya, and a crime committed in Port Ormos. What a headache. Well, we can only wait until the Academia sends someone to deal with it. I'm guessing we'll have to contact Fontaine as well. In any case, we won't really know anything until tomorrow. With the exhibition, we don't even have space in Port Ormos to detain anyone. Such a headache.
The hotel could suffice. You could station a few officers to keep an eye on Sylvain and myself. Although with Sylvain's mental state and my physical one, I don't think you need to worry about a jailbreak.
Mr. Edgar, are you saying...
If Sylvain is to stand trial, then I deserve the same fate. A crime is a crime, accomplice or not. I'd just like to take care of a few things before I go. Say goodbye to my plants and all that. As for Sylvain, I'm sure he also has some goodbyes of his own. Would you be willing to grant that request, Sheriff?
Well, all right. I'll talk to the academia. No matter who you were in Fontaine or what crimes you committed, the man we grew to know in Sumeru proved himself to be a good person. Your request is granted.
You have my thanks, Sheriff.
Happened tonight? Oh, you mean the possibility that Kiria might try to finish what he started?
Yeah, all we know is that he uses a goose to poison people, but we still have no idea how to catch him in the act. If he targets Sylvain or Edgar again, we might not be able to stop him.
That may be true, but what if we can take advantage of his desperation? If we take advantage of this situation and lure him in on purpose, we might finally have the chance to talk to him.
Master, no. That's too dangerous.
Ouais, d'accord, Hibou. Hibou, il est amoureux d'Emily. Elle est trop belle, la nouvelle arme. What the fuck. Ça fait un peu fleur de cristal, je trouve. D'ailleurs, je dois faire une invoque. Zénik, il a payé sur la bannière d'armes. Mais bon, vu qu'il y a 2 persos qui arrivent dans moins d'1 mois et demi, je vais pas faire de folie. Surtout que j'ai déjà l'arc de Yelan. Tu vas pas la tenter quand même, Hibou, l'arme.
This is my only chance to make him pay for what he did. I'm spending the rest of my life in prison anyway. I can't just sit back and let him ride off into the sunset with our fortune. There's no way I'm letting him get away with it. Not after what he did to Lucian. As for the danger, everyone else just needs to make preparations in advance to protect us.
I'll admit, it could work. We just need to spread the word that Edgar and Sylvain are leaving tomorrow. Then I'll station some of my men around the hotel. If we have your assistance as well, our chance of success would be even higher.
I still have some reservations. But if you insist on carrying out this plan, I won't deny you my help.
I'll also keep watch.
Although I think Sylvain and myself should remain alone in our respective rooms. If Kiria noticed another person in the room, he might decide to turn back. And besides, it's possible he's already transformed Auguste into a potent toxic gas.
You mean if he doesn't see a way to get his hands on the two of you, he might get so desperate that he'll just start using Auguste on everybody?
If that were to happen, everyone standing guard, even the innocent citizens in Port Ormos would all be in danger.
That's why everyone else needs to keep to the shadows.
You're still recovering. You need to rest.
This old bag of bones doesn't bounce back like it used to. I suppose I'll just have to leave the rest to you.
All right, we can figure out a plan to keep watch later. Right now, I say we split up, start spreading that information before it's too late.
Comment ça, le dendro, c'est nul, Hibou? Pour te donner un ordre d'idée, ma Emily tape entre 4000 et 67 000.
Mr. Edgar's been detained. He's being taken away tomorrow.
Avec 2 pyros de dendro.
What? He's the one who helped craft all the fragrances for our shop.
Mais je sais pas trop encore comment la jouer.
He taught my child how to make perfume. How could this happen?
He hasn't been convicted yet. Let's just wait and see what the court has to say.
Oh, everyone on the street is talking about the rumors. No matter where Kiria is hiding, he must have heard them by now. Let's head back to the hotel and take a break. We can see how the other preparations are going while we're at it.
Putain, par contre, 90% de la quête se passe dans cette foutue auberge. Là. What the hell? Et regarde, elle fait des petites fleurs quand tu l'attaques chargée. C'est trop mignon. Bon, ça sert à rien parce qu'elle s'infuse pas, mais... Il nous faudrait une Candace Dendro, en fait. À moins qu'elle ait une constellation qui lui permette de s'infuser, mais j'ai pas regardé. J'avais regardé que la sienne, je sais que c'est pas ça. Après le reste, j'ai pas vu.
Thank you, Kale. But first, here, I prepared a kind of herbal tea that helps calm the spirit. Why don't you have some?
Oh, that's very kind of you, but I'm okay.
Oh, it's not good to be so tense, especially when we've got a long night ahead of us. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I couldn't help but notice that something seems to be on your mind.
Was it that obvious?
You seem very preoccupied with Kiria's revenge. If there's anything you want to talk about, I'm happy to listen.
Oh, Hey, Emily, Kale. Oh, are we interrupting something? No, not at all. This will be easier to talk through with you here anyway. I've just been thinking. If Kiria has the capacity to commit murder while remaining completely undetected, why didn't he target Sylvain along with Lucien last night? There was just a single door separating them. If his intention was to target both brothers, then there was barely anything standing in his way. Don't you think? When I accompanied Sylvain to his room after Lucien died, and saw how distraught he was, I suddenly realized, maybe Kiria did that on purpose. Maybe he wanted Sylvain to experience the pain of losing a loved one before he completed his ultimate revenge.
So did he attack Edgar as a warning then? To scare Sylvain and Lucien?
Based on what we've heard about Kiria, that may very well be the case.
Losing his sister all those years ago. What has been going through his head? What has he been forced to endure? Whenever I get to thinking like that, I just can't help but wonder. I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't think like that. Not after everything he's done. But I just can't help it.
There's nothing wrong with the way you're feeling. Empathy is a part of human nature. In all my years of cleaning up crime scenes, I've witnessed countless families mourn their loved ones. Their cries of devastation and anger still echo through my mind, even now. Some of them even try to stop me, begging me not to erase the last remnants of their loved ones. But getting swept up in those emotions will corrupt your judgment. Surround yourself with fragrance for too long, and your sense of smell will become dull. Allow yourself to be consumed by your emotions, and you lose the ability to think rationally. So while you hold on to that sense of empathy, you also need to ask yourself, do Sylvain and Lucien really deserve to die? How much did they truly know about the Fatui and the delusion? Did they force Yelena to make those decisions? Answering those questions requires a lot of time and evidence, while a single act of vengeance can put those answers forever out of our reach. I've witnessed a lot of deaths in Fontaine. When someone dies, a certain amount of information can be inferred from the traces left behind at the scene. But generally speaking, death will just leave most questions unanswered, and the whole picture ever incomplete.
Once you're consumed by hatred, it will become next to impossible to think about things that way. For someone like Kiria, I'm sure right and wrong lost all meaning a long time ago.
You're right. The fact that we can approach these questions from this perspective isn't because we're more rational than them. It's because we're fortunate enough not to have suffered that kind of loss. But that also makes us perfectly positioned to stand on the outside and try to pull them back from the brink before it's too late. I understand Kiria's decision, but I still want to stop him. Master, Sylvain, and Kiria. They all deserve to survive.
Huh. The fortunate and the unfortunate.
Emily, Traveler. Huh? Edgar, you're here too?
Oh, it's you two! Didn't you head back to your room to rest, Edgar? Is it really okay for you to be out and about like this?
A little exercise never hurt anyone. Besides, I don't have much time left in Sumeru. So I'd like to take care of my plants while I still can.
We could do that for you, Master.
No need. I've grown attached to these flowers, and this is my last chance to say goodbye. Come tomorrow. I'll be happy to entrust their care to you. I would imagine Sheriff Sham is here for a more important reason.
The Night Watch! You mentioned earlier that we still need to confirm our plans.
That's right. I've stationed some of my men around the surrounding area, but we still don't have anyone standing guard next to Sylvain's room. Exactly. After some discussion, we concluded that Sylvain has the highest risk of being attacked next. You're the most skilled fighter here, Traveler. And Emily's expertise is sure to come in handy in a pinch. That's why I want you two stationed next to Sylvain's room. So, are you up for it?
Sounds perfectly reasonable. I'll be glad to have your help tonight, Traveler.
Not a peep. Has Kirya given up on his revenge? Guess we'll have to keep at it. Still nothing unusual. Paimon took a peek into the room next door and Sylvain's already sleeping.
Perhaps Kirya's true motive was simply forcing Sylvain to confess his crimes. No, that can't be right. If all he wanted was for Sylvain to be convicted for his true crimes, he could have tipped off the Marasha safe. There must be something we're missing. Something extremely important.
Maybe we just need to calm down a little. How about some tea? That herbal blend from earlier was pretty tasty. You're right. Maybe we can look for a different distraction then, like looking at the flowers. Oh, there's a glaze lily here. Paimon didn't notice it earlier.
Flowers, glaze lilies, incense. Oh no! Sylvain's room! Quick!
Wait, what?
Hey, did you hear? Someone was attacked again last night.
It was the older of the merchant brothers, right?
Yeah, I think his name was Sylvain. Poor guy was murdered in cold blood.
First it was Mr. Edgar, then that merchant named Lucian, and now this.
Listen up, everyone. This is an active crime scene. Please, no loitering.
It's been 3 days and they haven't even caught a glimpse of the guy. What is going on?
Do you think it could be the work of an evil spirit? I mean, how do you get away with something like that with so many people watching?
Keep it moving, everyone. No loitering.
I suppose I'm next.
You don't know that. Kirya already attacked you once, and you survived. Perhaps he doesn't consider your crime to be worthy of death.
You were the only reason I managed to survive, Emily. I never did thank you for that, did I?
Even if I wasn't there, Tainari was also in the vicinity. He would have been able to help.
Is that so? I suppose I'm a very fortunate person then. I have exceptional students, caring friends, and the respect of my peers. If it is indeed my time to go, then I'll die without regrets. But Kyria has nothing. Yelena is gone. Now his enemies are too. It really makes you wonder if there's even a reason to keep on living.
If you really want an answer, I suppose you'll have to ask Kyria himself once we finally catch him.
Well, I hope it all goes well. Emily, there's something else I'd like to ask of you. With everything that's happened, holding the exhibition is off the table now. But so many flowers were transported here for the show, some of them thousands of miles away from their homeland. I can't let them wither away with no one to care for them. Whether Kyria gets to me first, or I'm sent back to Fontaine to stand trial, I won't be around to look after them. I know it's a lot to ask, but could I entrust them to your care?
Of course, Master.
Really? Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Now I truly have nothing to worry about.
Sheriff Sham still has some questions for me, so I've gotta go.
Go ahead. Best not to keep him waiting. He can be quite impatient.
I'm sorry, Master.
Another all-nighter. Paimon sure hopes Emily's plan will go well.
Ouah, le bâillement de Paimon.
Oh,
Pas
but
de
Kai
rien.
still looks quite worried. Let's go talk to her.
Emily still isn't back. I hope she didn't run into any trouble.
Yeah, that's true.
Traveler, I had my men start spreading the information you requested. The crowd is gone now too.
C'est quoi cette question, Zénith?
I have to admit,
Comment ça, je
I'm
fais
not
quoi dans
really
ma
sure
chambre?
what's going on. After
Alors déjà,
listening to
techniquement, j'ai
Emily's
pas de chambre.
plan, I started getting the
Vu que
materials together and
c'est
arranging
31 mètres
personnel.
carrés, mais sans mur.
I barely had a second to spare last night.
Donc, pouet, pouet.
To be honest, I'm still not sure how the crime was committed that night.
The key clue was right in front of us the entire time. Let's go. We'll show you where the culprit hid a goose.
Mais oui. J'ai pas compris pourquoi il s'appelle Sylvain. Référence aux arbres, j'en sais rien. Par contre, ce qui me fait peur, c'est que Juzo il parlait d'un truc en mode enquête là. J'y suis pas encore, alors que je suis sur l'épisode depuis 1h30. Après, c'est peut-être là.
Was this incense originally in Lucien's room?
Mais non, mais.
I only have a basic idea of what.
So.
Fada. Bah oui, mais indiqué, mais qu'est-ce que. Oh putain. Parler à coller. Oh non, ça reset le truc. Oh les shit. Je suis encore à la quête de si joue. Oh, putain, de merde. Non, après si joue une. Après si tu spam, en vrai ça. Ça va vite, hein.
Traveler, I had my men start spreading the information you requested.
Mais c'est que moi je laisse défiler, donc ça
After
prend pas
listening
de
to
temps.
Emily's plan,
Je trouve que pour la rediff c'est mieux
to be
quoi.
honest, I'm still not.
The key clue was right in front of us the entire time. Let's go. We'll show you where the culprit.
Et... Ouais, d'accord avec Occupik. Les fleurs du coup. Oui, arrête de donner des détails sur les fleurs, on s'en fout. Voilà, merci. J'ai eu le malheur de prendre la porte, ça a reset la scène.
I think I've heard of it before. It's a flower from
Ah là là.
right?
T'imagines, Nico, tu viens dans une demi-heure pour
Well,
faire les boss
did
hebdo
you know
et nous dire
it
ce que t'auras
only
eu en
glows
faisant
at
tes
night?
invoques.
Emily, you're back!
Imagine, t'as des razors.
Exactly as expected.
A flower that only blooms at night.
Bah oui, il faut que je finisse la quête,
Vanilla
Nico.
Palo Lotus.
Exactly.
3 multi 3 fois, je suis en
The
clinique.
new Palo Lotus wouldn't be a good
Je sais pas si
substitute
tu l'avais
in
déjà
this
saisi.
scenario. When it's closed, the gaps between the petals are too
Donc,
large.
je sais pas si tu continues sur Yelan ou
That's
si
why
t'attends
Kyria chose
Noël
the
Annie.
glaze
Je
lily
sais pas.
as his mechanism. He would start by preparing an Agoose sample.
Après, il suffit d'une invoque. Ouais, c'est ça, c'est la partie au bord de la cul. Tremper la zone autour des pétales, c'est-à-dire...
If poured into the flower pot, the liquid would seep in. If applied to the outside, you would There's a sticky substance on the edge of the flower petals.
Sur le bord des pétales.
It's one I recognize.
Ok.
If you stick the petals together.
That's right. He applied a diluted
Uh-huh.
form of slime condensate to the petals to stick them together.
Ça, c'est un
and
truc que
enclosed a sample of
j'aime pas
Agoose
trop.
in the
ça fait-
center. That way, the Agoose would remain trapped inside during the daytime, unable to seep between the petals and
Parce que déjà,
evaporate
enfin,
into
faut
the air.
suivre et c'est pas très clair des
This
fois. c'est-
also allowed the culprit to plant the poison well in
Bon,
advance.
j'avoue que les quêtes de
while his
2h30, il y a toujours un
targets
moment où je
remained
décroche un peu, quoi.
oblivious. However, the diluted slime condensate wouldn't be viscous enough to prevent the petals of the glaze lily from opening at night.
En
So
plus,
by
il me
nightfall,
déconcentre.
the flower would bloom, thereby forcing the target to inhale the Agoose trapped inside.
And Kyria could execute his revenge without having to step foot inside the room during the night.
By the next morning, the sample of Agoose would have nearly fully evaporated. The glaze lily would have...
Wait a second. You're telling me this version of a goose is so toxic, inhaling the minute amount trapped inside a flower is enough to kill a grown man? And how did Edgar even survive ingesting a whole bottle of the stuff?
That's because Agoose is just as dangerous now as it was all those years ago. The level of toxicity has never changed. Only a small subset of people are truly at risk.
Ah, you mean people who are sensitive to elemental energy. So it's just some sort of happy coincidence that Sylvain and Lucien are allergic to the stuff? That can't be right. They were involved in the operation all those years ago. If the stuff gave them a bad reaction, they would have known from the very start.
I wouldn't use the word allergic necessarily. It's more like they're susceptible to its effects. But that distinction isn't important right now. You can think of it this way. It's not that Sylvain and Lucien are innately sensitive to elemental energy, but that Kyria found a way to ensure that they would be.
In Fontaine, I experienced how drinking primordial seawater made me more attuned with the element of hydro. But that substance would be hard to get around. All kinds of essential oils commonly found in alchemical products can temporarily increase elemental affinity. The incense I smelled earlier seemed familiar. In Sumeru, scholars use spirit borneal to aid meditation and
Alchemically produced essential oils, the primordial seawater that caused unrest in Fontaine not too long ago. All of those are substances that can heighten your
Oui, mais c'est pas vraiment les
sensitivity to
méchants
elemental
méchants.
energy.
Ils sont quand même pas très gentils, mais
That stuff gave us a
c'est
lot
pas
of
les
trouble
gros
when we
méchants du
first
truc.
came
Quoi.
to Sumeru.
Ah, yes. I definitely remember that.
In Sumeru, it's not
Je suppose
uncommon
qu'à
to
les
use
installer Valorant.
incense indoors,
Étonnant vu le
so
jeu de
its
merde.
presence wouldn't arouse suspicion. The flowers in the room could also
Comment
serve
ça,
to
Ico
mask
BG?
dissent.
Toi aussi, tu regardes Ico sur
Flowers are pretty
Facebook?
important to this plan, huh? The glazed lily is native to Liwa. It would be completely unnatural to have one here in Sumeru if it weren't for the exhibition. What a coincidence.
Actually, it's not a coincidence at all.
No wonder he was willing to pay a small fortune
Comment
to
ça, t'as
rent
pas
out
encore
the
fait la quête de
hotel.
Sijouin?
He probably used the more Yelena left him,
Zénith a dû
don't
laisser
you
aller.
think? That
Je suis
money was
chaud de
supposed to set him free. But
D'ailleurs,
in
est-ce
the
que
end,
Sijouin
it was just a
pourrait
tool for
pas
his
bluff?
revenge.
There's a saying among forensic doctors in Fontaine. Every step you take
Sijouin buff 10
leaves a
fois
mark.
une compétence d'un
But
perso
up
non
until this
déployée.
point, we haven't been
Bref,
able to
faudra voir.
detect any trace
J'ai
of
pas Facebook,
Kiria's
c'est trouvé pour moi, ouais,
activities.
d'accord.
That's not because he was coming and going undetected, or because he's some kind of evil
Genre, tu
spirit,
préfères être sur
but
Trails?
because he's been disguised
tapis de merde,
as
hein.
someone else this entire time.
Creating such an intricate mechanism out of a glaze lily, setting up the spirit Borneal in advance, and arranging for Sylvain and Lucien to stay at the hotel. It all points to the Mora spent to rent out the hotel, the way the Auguste flower was cultivated. It all points to one person. The boy who inherited Yelena. Kyria and Edgar are one and the same.
But Kyria was only in his teens back then. He wouldn't even be 40 years old by now. Edgar's lived here for so many years. Even if he changed his appearance, going that long without giving anything
Comment ça, tu
away
connais pas Shred? Je sais même pas comment
would
ça
be
se prononce.
impossible.
Attends, c'est un truc de merde.
Sheriff! Mr. Edgar was attacked.
What?
A dark shadow-like figure just ran out of his room. It was giving off a really ominous aura. But before we could even react, the figure up and disappeared like some sort of ghost or something. By the time we got a look inside the room, Mr. Edgar was gone. Do you think Kyria kidnapped him?
I need you to think very carefully about this. Are you certain that figure wasn't Edgar himself?
I mean, Mr. Edgar was so frail. I don't see how he could have moved that fast.
It would seem Master decided to tap into an ill-advised source of power.
What? But that's so dangerous with the condition he's in. It's...
But why? Why would he do that? He's already accomplished his revenge.
No. If his aim was to target everyone who had a hand in Yelena's death...
If he left Sylvain alive yesterday, not out of a desire to see him suffer, but to confirm the truth about why Yelena chose to die...
Then there's still one target left.
Oui, je pense que tu as la bonne réponse, Zénith.
The shadow-like figure ran in the direction of the elevator, and my partner immediately chased after them.
We should hurry before they're forced to confront each other.
Where in the world did he go? Let's ask the merchants nearby.
A ghost!
It's all right. Please, calm down and take a deep breath. Can you...
I saw a black shadow. It ran right past me. How could something like that happen in broad daylight?
This is terrifying.
No! Don't come any closer! If we go any further, we'll be out of Port Ormos. There'll be hardly any witnesses.
It's all right. I can detect a faint whiff of the scent from here. I would say he passed by this location not too long ago. It's this way. Please, follow me.
Attends, je passe par où là? Elle doit sortir Shannon. Oh, les cailloux. merci. Allez, Emily. Hop, on escalade. Hop. Hop. Ah, mais il y a des points pour... Ah mais niquez-vous aussi. Non, mais... En plus, elle a même pas accès au truc, il est trop... Oh. Pourquoi elle est tombée, Mada Elle est vraiment nulle. Hein. Ça, elle peut plus... Là, elle peut grappiner, là. Merci. Merci. C'est encore... C'est là, là. Attends, quoi? Ah oui, non, c'est là. Un donjon. Putain, ils ont calé ça sous un rocher, là. Hop. Putain, on va enfin pouvoir rejouer après 1h40. Incroyable. Incredible! Mais du coup, ce qu'on a vu dans la cinématique avec... Enfin, la cinématique. L'extrait qu'on a vu avec Chevreuse. Ça n'a rien à voir avec sa quête. Je pensais que c'était un teaser de sa quête, mais en fait, c'est un truc autre. Je suis étonné.
The air definitely feels heavy. It smells nice, but for some reason, it's hard to breathe.
This feeling, I've encountered it before.
Everything looks all right. It was probably just the stress of the chase, combined with the impact of the environment. A bit of rest would do you some good.
I can't rest. Mr. Edgar is still in there. He taught my sister how to make perfume. He's a good man. I can't just abandon him to die by Curia's hand.
Oz, you need to calm down and listen to me. Edgar is the one we're after. He and Curia are the same person.
But how is that possible? I thought you said Curia was in his 30s. Mr. Edgar is 70-something. Changing your appearance to look decades older, that doesn't seem possible.
That's precisely why he had to resort to extraordinary measures to age himself. Curia used a delusion to bring back the Auguste flower, corroding his body in the process, just like his older sister.
No. He couldn't have. Mr. Edgar has been in Port Ormos for years. If someone started impersonating him all of a sudden, we would have noticed.
And what if the impersonation started before he ever set foot in Sumeru? I've yet to confirm it, but I suspect Curia killed the real Edgar in Fontaine not long after his release from prison. While Edgar was incarcerated, Curia started making preparations to replace him, including forcefully aging his body, studying perfumery, and planning the real Edgar's demise. The new Edgar then decided to relocate to Sumeru, seemingly out of an innocuous desire to let go of the past. He even left perfume making in favor of mentoring students. But these decisions were all for a specific purpose, the need to distance himself from anyone who might see through the facade. And Sumeru fit the bill to a T, with no one around to question his identity. All he had to do was grow a beard, don a pair of glasses, make a few minor alterations to his appearance, and everyone would believe he was exactly who he claimed, Edgar, a perfumer from Fontaine. As the years went by, he removed his disguise little by little and continued to refine his skills. It would have been a gradual process, one that ensured no one around him would notice anything unusual.
That explains why Sylvain said he barely recognized Edgar back at the hotel! He aged himself decades beyond his years just so he could accomplish his revenge! Is that even worth it?
I need to find Mr. Edgar. He's not that kind of person. He can't be.
What you really need is to get out of here and rest.
No, I can keep going.
Wait! This environment is likely being influenced by the delusion. Any discomfort, no matter how slight, should not be treated lightly. I know how to relieve your symptoms, Mr. Ooze. Please come with me and rest. I'm sure Kyria... No, Edgar wouldn't want any more innocent people implicated in all this.
Kale's right. The Traveler and I will take things from here. From our brief exposure to a goose, it would seem the substance has little effect on us. This leads me to believe those blessed with a vision or capable of wielding elemental power are more resistant to the effects of abnormal elemental energy. In other words, this environment doesn't pose as much of a risk to us. Actually, now that I think about it, this stronghold likely has multiple points of entry. If the target were to escape from a different point of entry, that might allow him to evade capture. I hate to trouble you, but we need people to survey the perimeter.
Thanks. Hear that? We're heading out. There's work to be done. Ooze, head back to Port Ormos and start gathering reinforcements.
Got it.
Traveler, Emily, Paimon, please be careful. For someone whose only purpose in life is revenge, there's no telling what they'll do when there's no reason to move forward.
Don't worry. This isn't the end. Not for us or for Kyria. We're not going to let a goose kill anyone else. It's time for the mythos to fade into obscurity.
Orchidée. Quel nom original. Putain, c'est pas la mienne. Comment ça, elle a 27 000 PV? Bah, ils étaient jolis les timbres Pokémon, Flucos. Le mec juge. Oh, l'autocrit. Après, elle a pas, ouais, elle a moins de dégâts crit que la mienne. Elle a moins d'attaque, elle a moins de maîtrise élémentaire. Ancien rituel royal. Ouais, ça augmente les dégâts de son ulti. Quand elle ulti, elle augmente les attaques des collègues. En vrai, ça peut se tenir.
Monsters. Perhaps they were attracted here by the increased level of elemental energy.
Mais je suis obligé de vous brûler le fiac là, je vais pas jouer d'un drôle. Nul. Ça se trouve, il donne rien. J'ai un temps de multi. De toute façon, il ne doute rien. Je vois. Ça crache.
I've never seen these seeds before. They must also have been created with the power of a delusion.
What the hell?
It seems to be
Attends, faut
avoiding
juste le
us,
pousser.
and there's no other way forward. Perhaps we could try luring it to the edge of the cliff.
Oh, un pont. Oh, un coffre. Incroyable, 2 primogènes. Let's go.
Whoa, look at all the Auguste flowers! There are so many of them. I can't believe a single person did all this. Must have taken a lot of time.
I fear that statement is truer than you know, Paimon. Using a delusion comes at a cost. Not just time, but the time you have left to live.
But why would Kyria need this many Auguste flowers? He only needed a few bottles of Auguste to carry out his plan, right?
Perhaps hatred wasn't the only emotion fueling his obsession. Not long ago, he told me he didn't want all the flowers transported to Sumeru to wither away in a foreign land. But Kyria betrayed Snezhnaya, abandoned Fontaine, and lived his entire life in Sumeru under the guise of someone else. For someone with nowhere to call home, perhaps dying among a bed of Auguste flowers just like his sister is the best homecoming he could ask for.
Le mec voudrait mourir dans un champ de fleurs. C'est presque poétique. Waouh, des pommes. Des pommes dans un mur. Pourquoi pas. Yes. Tu peux? Merci. Est-ce qu'ils auraient pas caché un coffre genre là? Non, pas du tout. Tac. Depuis quand ils mettent des trucs comme ça? Comme si c'était des trésors incroyables. Si encore ils mettaient des armes 3 stars. Qui qui peuvent être utiles comme l'arc PV pour Sijuin par exemple que j'ai que en R1. PTDR. Hello les champions.
Let's light it. Buckle up.
Seems like an emergency.
Peut-être pas ulti. Je suis à deux doigts d'ulti, mais... Bon bah finalement...
Teamwork is strict. Fresh and floral. Neutralize.
Allez, crash. Crash. Mais non mais... Pourquoi c'est parti en cacahuète? Ouais bon c'est Jean-Michel à peu près la physique du truc. Hein. J'ai peps. Faut éviter les... les rayons lumineux. Je suis vraiment trop fort. Le mec va arrêter de jouer au sous. Ah, si tu t'amuses pas, ça sert à rien. Si t'en retires rien, même pas de la satisfaction de réussir, aucun intérêt. Après la lance elle est jolie. Mais bon. D'ailleurs Zénith t'es revenu. Allez hop. Bah, tu sais qu'on fait pas de game normal, Echo. On fait que des aras, mais des fois on a des games rigolotes quand même. Mais des games normales, j'en ai peut-être pas fait depuis 3 mois. Hein. Zénith. Tu peux arrêter Zénith, s'il te plaît? C'est quoi son smiley moche, ico-cubique là? Moi je rate jamais, t'es fada.
Did they catch up that fast? No. My strength is just waning. But it doesn't matter. This is far enough.
This is a garden of Auguste flowers. But it's not mine. It's the one that was set on fire all those years ago in Fontaine. Yelena? Yelena! You tried to hide it from me, but I always understood. The reason why you continued to use the delusion, the reason why you set your garden on fire, it was all because of me. I shouldn't have listened to you that day. I shouldn't have taken the Mora and ran. But
attends, je sens c'était ça ta référence à Sephiroth.
There was nothing left. The flowers were
gone. Je vais me dire tellement c'est nul à chier. Quoi?
So were you. I know I'm
almost
20 years too late. I should have come looking for you earlier. I should have died with you that day.
Attends, juste parce que t'as vu une vieille meuf
Yelena?
Dans les flammes. T'es fada. Je m'attendais à quelqu'un qui tombe du ciel avec une épée.
No.
What the hell, dude?
Please, Yelena.
Bah, elle était juste dans les flammes. Enfin, c'est pas. Ouais. Je m'attendais à autre chose. Hein.
Emily?
Je suis choqué barre.
I'm alive. No, that's not possible.
D'ailleurs, je t'ai construit sur Emily, on n'a même pas parlé de tes vacances. On a parlé le fait que t'es conduit. Enfin, que t'es été conduit en voiture électrique de merde. Enfin, de merde pour faire des trajets longs. Le mec a pas envoyé de photo. Choqué et déçu. C'est moi qui suis choqué et déçu.
A fake, but how?
We started making the preparations last night with one goal in mind: to create a perfect accord. The accord is the basis of perfume making,
the product in its most primitive form. Ambergris mixed with cedarwood, rounded out with a base note of agarwood.
This is the scent of leather?
Exactly. We're unable to extract essential oils from leather, but by combining other raw materials, we can recreate its essence. That is the purpose of an accord.
Does that mean you can recreate any scent in the whole world?
I'm afraid not. Certain fragrances in this world are simply one of a kind. That quality is what draws people in and fuels their obsessions.
If I wear a goose to the ball, I'll also be one of a kind. Our competitor already got their hands on it. Perfume all over the
It doesn't matter how much it costs. I have to buy something better.
This fragrance will be one of a kind no more. Myths can be deconstructed. Miracles can be recreated. All it takes is skill, experience, limitless exploration, and a little patience. The only thing left is determining where the real Auguste is hidden. Pretending to be attacked means he's not free to move around. Auguste must be hidden within reach.
Paimon took a peek through the window earlier and his house was packed with flowers.
The curator commissioned a flower pot from Kasharawar, capable of retaining heat and moisture.
Perfumes are as beautiful as flowers, and equally as delicate. When stored, you must take care to control the temperature and keep them away from direct sunlight. Did you get all that, Emily?
I got it.
Did you hear? Someone was attacked again last night.
So, Sylvain is dead. Is that right?
Yes, Master.
So, you switched the bottles of Auguste, and then lied to me about Sylvain's death.
Convincing you that your revenge had been completed was the easiest way to get you to let down your guard.
Impossible. Even if you found a way to switch out the bottles,
Bonsoir.
there's no way you could have made an
Et oui,
accord.
Ico, Juzo, je sais pas, il préfère aller sur YouTube. Sûrement parce qu'il a pas Twitch ou parce qu'il a pas l'habitude. I don't know.
It was a combination of rainbow roses, glaze lilies, and Cecilias. Those
T'inquiète,
ingredients would
Asnez.
have conflicted
Je
with
te
each
fais
other
pas la
if you
quête,
tried
tu
to
auras tout
combine
le
them in the
loisir
past.
de passer 2 heures en compagnie d'Emily.
But recently, we found
Don't
a way for them
worry.
to work together.
Rainbow roses,
Bien.
glaze lilies, and Cecilias.
Et surtout, il y a quand même un mec qui s'appelle Sylvain dans la quête.
Auguste was
Donc moi,
created
rien
over
que pour ça, je
10
dis,
years ago.
ça vaut
All
le coup de la
this
faire.
time, people never stopped analyzing it, never stopped trying to recreate it. Perfumery techniques are advancing day by day. We've found better ways to extract essential oils, separate oils and fats. We even discovered new ways to combine fragrances together. The mythos surrounding Auguste may have been untouchable almost 20 years ago, but now it's time for it to become a thing of the past.
The past.
You've been working as a perfumer for all these years. You should have always known that it is possible to make an accord, even if only in theory. But the meaning you assigned to Auguste became so inflated, you allowed yourself to get lost in it, just like the perfume mania that captivated the public all those years ago. You believed in its divinity and grandeur. You believed it was entirely one of a kind. Your obsession with Auguste is also what allowed us to predict how you intended your plan to end, and to make preparations in advance.
We just didn't expect it to happen so fast.
Well, you hit the nail on the head now, didn't you? So, Sylvain isn't dead. Since you've been preparing your cord since last night, I assume you've also figured out my method, then. That means the news of Sylvain's death. The crowd gathered outside the hotel this morning. It was all an act you put on with the sheriff?
Yes. If we hadn't, you might have resorted to the delusion out of desperation, or continued to use your Spirit Borneal and Auguste combination to wreak havoc.
Who knows? Maybe I would have just offed myself then and there.
I know if you had things your way, you would carry the truth of Edgar's demise and the secrets of this garden to the grave, but I'm sorry, Master. I don't want to see any more death. Sylvain only inhaled a small amount of poison. He's being detained as we speak. All the crimes he concealed back then will be exposed in a court of law for everyone to see, and all his secrets will be revealed. The same goes for you as well.
Is that so? Well, I suppose I'll be spending the rest of my days in a prison cell then.
Whoa, he accepted that kind of fast.
I don't feel the need to justify my actions, nor do I intend to repent for them. I did what I set out to do. I may have lost in the end, but it was my choice every step of the way. And if I could do it all over again... But there's no going back, is there?
Careful, everyone. This environment is dangerous. I'll lead the way.
Stick close and hurry up. We can't let Edgar die.
Looks like I'm almost out of time. Although, I do have one final question, Emily.
Of course, Master.
The combination you used to make your accord. How did you figure it out?
The scent of Auguste is complex and varied, yet the main ingredient consists of a single variety of flower. So, as I was analyzing the sample yesterday, I got to thinking, what if the scent of the Auguste flower was already imbued with that complexity during its cultivation?
You're saying Yelena designed Auguste to have the scent of multiple flowers?
Rainbow roses, glazed lilies, Cecilias. The perfumers of the past knew that if you combine their essential oils directly, they would just cancel each other out. It was a conundrum they could never solve. But if you cultivate a new flower species that intrinsically carries the unique features of those three scents, you can bypass that issue entirely. It goes without saying that for that time, this idea was a stroke of genius.
Rainbow roses, glaze lilies, and Cecilias. Those really do seem like flowers you would choose, Yelena.
Le mec a accepté son sort sans dire un mot. Sans dire un mot. Il y a Collet. Oui, il y a Collet. On la voit même plusieurs fois. Enfin, elle nous a rejoint à l'auberge. Là, elle était à l'entrée du donjon. En même temps, c'est une quête full dendro. Oh, cette beauté. Puis regarde ses autos avec ses talons. Là. Je sais pas, ses jambes, elle fait des trucs bizarres. Là. Mais ses jambes sur les côtés. Après, tu vois peut-être pas bien sur mobile, mais... bizarre. Et puis, elle fait des attaques chargées qui font des fleurs. Donc, pas le pot de camembert. Hein. Voilà. Top tier collé. Non, non. Après, techniquement, elle a besoin d'un deuxième dendro pour appliquer de la faiblesse dendro. Donc, tu peux invoquer Emily pour justifier le retour en force de Collet. tu veux, si t'attends 5 minutes, je peux même te faire les invocations en direct.
Seems like everyone in Fontaine is talking about the new perfume you're releasing.
I was hoping to release it without such a fuss, but the news spread way faster than I expected. I just hope it won't become the source of some new myth, especially after all the work we did to demystify a Ghost. I did, although I made a few modifications to the formula to make the scent more pleasant and long-lasting.
Après, chacun ses goûts.
I actually brought a few samples with me today. I hope they're to your liking. Also,
On s'est fait la remarque qu'avec Picasso, on a dit tous les deux la même chose à peu près au même moment. Ce qui est un peu bizarre sur le perso, c'est la coupe de cheveux. Je trouve qu'elle aurait été mieux avec une natte ou un truc sur le côté. Un truc un peu plus chargé, je sais pas.
Oh,
Paimon
it
qui
smells
sniffe.
great.
Yes.
It's alright. All feedback is worth considering. Besides, when it comes to perfume, commenting on whether it smells good is the most straightforward assessment you can ask for. There doesn't always have to be a deeper meaning.
Right. Do those flowers have some special meaning? Hearing their names seemed to have an effect on him.
If I had to guess, I'd say it probably has something to do with the language of flowers.
The language of flowers? Oh, we've heard of that before. Paimon remembers hearing something like, the Cecilia represents the true feelings of the prodigal son?
What each flower is said to represent varies by person and across different moments in history. The same is true for the flowers that make up the scent of a Ghost. After returning to Fontaine, I did some research, and it turns out the meanings of those 3 flowers can be reassembled to form a single phrase. Forget the past and keep on living. Perhaps that's the legacy Yelena always intended, not the nobility and grandeur most people associate with a Ghost.
Do you think Kiria knew about that?
I paid him a visit before his trial and explained what I found, but he didn't seem to care. Who knows? Maybe she didn't mean anything by it at all. That was his response. Yelena is gone. We'll never know what she was thinking. We can look for meaning all we want, but it'll never be anything but conjecture. Even if that is what she was trying to say, I would never be able to forget her. Avenging her death? That was the meaning I chose for my life. Kiria cultivated his revenge like a flower. He was committed to making it bloom, even if in the end, it didn't bear the fruit he was hoping for. In any case, he did want me to pass along his thanks. Thank you for saving my life, for giving me the chance to learn that a Ghost could have carried a very different meaning. Love and hatred are a privilege of the living.
Baba Yasnes. Oula, je suis parti dans les écules.
When someone dies,
Moi je pense qu'il
their
reste 5 minutes, Thibaut.
thoughts, feelings and intentions die with them. In that sense, what a Ghost truly represents in the language of flowers will forever remain a mystery. But even if it's only a conjecture, I would like to believe my own interpretation. The meaning we give to flowers, the symbolism we assign to our perfumes, they're constantly twisted and exploited in our imperfect world. And yet, at the very outset, they're born from the simplest and most beautiful desires we hold in our heart.
Ainsi fini. Bah, la quête. Voilà. Ouais, elles sont passées vite les 5 minutes. Ah, du coup, on a un échantillon. C'est pour l'atelier ou... Attends, quoi? Pardon? Ici. Quel est l'intérêt? Est-ce qu'il y a un buff d'attaque? What? Ça fait juste un petit P autour du perso. Est-ce que c'est pas le meilleur item ever? Voilà, il y a un intérêt à faire cette quête. Vous débloquez un P parfumé. Voilà. Bah, sur ces belles paroles. À bientôt pour d'autres contenus Genshin. Ciao, ciao.